Welcome to the Get Fit Guys, quick and dirty tips to slim down and shape up. My name is Ben Greenfield. I'm the Get Fit Guy, and we're about to jump into a two-part series on what to eat for breakfast before a big workout or a race. I remember the first time I thought about doing an Ironman triathlon. It was in the early 2000s. I was watching the NBC Ironman coverage, and I remember witnessing some sleepy-eyed guy roll over a bit before 4 a.m. to make his breakfast, which was a huge mashup of oatmeal, fruit, toast, and scrambled eggs. As he sat there hunched over in his pajamas, jamming forkfuls of calories into his gaping maw, he motioned to a heaping pile of energy bars a few feet away, referring to that pile as breakfast number 2. Well, at the time, I was a competitive bodybuilder and not only used to eating 8 to 10 meals a day, but also well accustomed to planning out elaborate pre-competition rituals designed to enhance performance and blood flow to the muscles, including everything from extreme sodium loading followed by water depletion so that my muscles would pop, to dark chocolate, caffeine, and red wine backstage so my vessels would pop. So the concept of waking up at the wee hours to shove fuel into my body wasn't really a foreign concept or something that seemed all that weird. But since then, over years of competing, studying, and coaching, I've learned that there's a great deal more to a race morning breakfast or fueling a big workout than simply getting as many calories as possible into your body without puking. So in this special two-part series, you're going to learn how to truly crack the code on your pre-race meal or your pre-big workout meal, and how to never guess again if you find yourself wandering through the aisles of a grocery store the night before a marathon, a triathlon, an obstacle race, or a big workout, or navigating the continental breakfast section of a hotel a few hours before going to toe the starting line. So I'll lay everything out here in this two-part series, and if you want to access the show notes, just go to quickanddirtytips.com/getfitguy244 for this week's episode. So let's start here. Size. Step 1 begins by figuring out how big your meal should actually be. Should you eat everything in sight until you're 100% full? Should you painstakingly measure out each portion to the exact gram using a precise kitchen scale? Should you simply fast so your body magically taps into its own storage fat? Well, the answer is it depends. And it depends specifically on how big you are, how long your race is, or your workout is, and how much time you have available to digest that meal. Armed with just a tiny dose of science and math, you can easily determine exactly how much you should eat. Let's begin with why you should consider eating in the first place. So here's why. During an overnight fast, you're not going to burn through much of your muscle's storage carbohydrate, which is also known as muscle glycogen, but your liver's storage carbohydrate, or liver glycogen stores, are reduced substantially while you sleep, with some studies reporting glycogenolysis, or liver glycogen and liver storage carbohydrate breakdown rates of 0.2 to 0.3 millimolar glucosyl units per minute during a fast. Okay, glucosyl units may mean diddly squat to you, but the big picture is that this equates to about an 80% reduction in your liver glycogen stores during a night of about 8 hours of sleep. Well, since the average human liver stores about 400 calories of glycogen, and that really doesn't vary too much based on sex or size, that means that topping off those liver stores with about 300 to 320 calories or so is a good goal for the number of carbohydrates to include in the morning before a big workout or a big race that might threaten to exhaust your muscle glycogen stores or your liver glycogen stores. Now, in most people, it takes about 1.5 to 2 hours of hard exercising to burn through storage carbohydrate. So that means that for any race or big workout that goes for longer than about 1.5 hours, you should consider including around 300 to 350 calories of carbohydrates in a pre-race or pre-workout meal so that you can maximize glycogen storage. Of course, since you'll be wandering around before a workout or a race, prepping, let's say, your bike or your shoes or any other race equipment, warming up, nervously fidgeting and stretching in line at a porta potty, you're going to be burning an extra 100 to 150 calories of carbohydrate per hour. So it would be prudent to account for that as well. So when we take into account those extra carbohydrate calories, and bear with me on the math here, if you complete your pre-race or pre-workout meal 2 hours before the start of the workout or the race, and that's a reasonable amount of time, as you'll shortly learn, and then to maintain your precious storage carbohydrate or glycogen stores, in addition to that 300 to 350 calories of carbohydrate I mentioned, you'll probably need an extra 100 to 150 calories of carbohydrate for each hour leading up to your race or workout. And this can be achieved by consuming that equivalent of carbs from, say, a sport bottle, by nursing a bottle of sport drink, or chewing on a bar as you wait for the race to start, or by simply including those extra calories in your pre-race meal. Now, both methods work, but I specifically like to get most of it out of the way all at once, and then get a few extra calories in that last hour leading up to the race or the workout. So, let's get even more scientific. Your gut can absorb around 240 to 280 calories of carbohydrate per hour. So this means that if you consume, let's say, about 300 to 350 calories of carbohydrates with breakfast, plus the extra 100 to 150 calories of carbohydrates to account for all that walking around leading up to the workout or the race, with a breakfast 2 hours prior to the race, so that you're able to easily digest that amount over those 2 hours, and then you throw in another 100 to 150 calorie snack in the final hours leading up to the race, that's going to come out to somewhere between 400 to 500 calories of carbohydrates with breakfast, 2 hours before your race or your big workout, and then sometime between then and the actual race or workout, another 100 to 150 calories. So, there are a few other quick nerdy things to note about carbs. The first is that a lower glycemic index carb may cause a less rapid rise in blood glucose and give you more stable energies. Things like whole grains, barley, rice, quinoa, oatmeal, grapefruits, apples, pears. Those are called stone fruits, by the way. Sweet potatoes or yams. These are all relatively low on the glycemic index compared to, say, like white bread or some sugary forms of cereal. Now, eating two different types of carbohydrates, which are known as multiple transportable carbohydrates, will also allow you to absorb more carbs. So you could include, for example, a fructose sugar such as fruit or organic raw honey with a glucose sugar like potato. Now, finally, some of the modern engineered forms of carbohydrates produced by sports nutrition companies contain what are called high molecular weight starches. An example of this is something like UCAN superstarch, and that can blunt the glycemic and the insulin response to carbs, causing you to have increased fat oxidation, allowing you to consume slightly lower amounts of carbs with that pre-race or pre-workout meal. Okay, so let's look at what this actually looks like once we put it all into practice. So you're going to include 300 to 350 calories plus an extra 100 to 150-ish calories of carbohydrates in a pre-race meal if you're going to be racing or working out longer than 1.5 hours. For women and athletes who are under 150 pounds, it's going to come out to about 400 calories of carbohydrates included with your pre-race meal. And for men or for athletes over 150 pounds, it comes out to about 500 calories before your pre-race or your pre-workout meal. And you want to consume this about 2 hours prior to the workout or the race. These calories could include, for example, let's use the larger athlete, 2 medium-sized sweet potatoes with a couple tablespoons of honey and a slathering of almond butter. Or for, say, a smaller athlete, a banana, a couple slices of a good sprouted gluten-free bread, and a handful of almonds. And then in the last hour leading up to the race or the workout, if you're a small athlete, you would consume 100 calories from a carbohydrate source like an energy bar, a sport drink, or a fruit. If you're a larger athlete, it would be closer to 150 calories. And that's it. Okay, your head is probably still hurting, even though I tried to make that simple. So I'm going to stop there. But in the next episode, we're going to delve into fats and proteins and take into consideration the fact that some of what you learn in this article it could actually be a moot point if you're someone who is fat adapted, e.g., someone who's gotten their body very, very good at conserving glycogen stores and operating well with lower levels of carb intake. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, and I'm sure you don't have any questions, right, about what you've learned so far or what to eat for breakfast before a big workout or a race, then leave your thoughts over at facebook.com/getfitguy. That's facebook.com/getfitguy. And until next time, I'm Ben Greenfield, the Get Fit Guy, asking you, what are you waiting for? Go get fit.